that the producers, far left-wing activists in Hollywood, are turning on her, and Disney has canceled all of Rachel Zegler's appearances on their media platforms. Kind of tough.
And there is no resolution in sight for the Walt Disney Company when it comes to Snow White 2025 at the box office. This is exactly why Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, is in pure panic mode over not just the Rachel Zegler backlash, but the entire backlash surrounding this movie in general.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we've got a jaw-dropping update on Disney's Snow White remake, yes, the one starring Rachel Zegler. The backlash got so big, Disney just announced they're rebooting it again, and Rachel Zegler's role, it's in major jeopardy. Let's dig into what happened and why the studio is panicking about the future of this iconic fairy tale. For anyone who's missed the chaos, here's the basic timeline. Rachel Zegler burst onto the scene with her breakout role in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story. Critics praise her voice, her screen presence, and her potential to become Hollywood's next big thing. Then Disney cast her as Snow White in a live-action adaptation. What should have been a straightforward star-making project quickly spiraled into controversy.
And just how once trusted critics that shilled for the Disney Company all the time, even they are beginning to turn their back against them. That's how bad this movie truly is. Even if you look at the IMDb rating score, that's when you really know how terrible this movie is and how it really hit rock bottom.
From day one, Disney promised a modern take on the original 1937 classic. The idea was to recast certain elements, add new songs, and emphasize a more feminist angle, something that has been done successfully in some of Disney's other remakes. Everyone expected a few changes, but it became clear early on that this version might break tradition in ways that alienated fans. Public excitement turned into concern the moment certain behind-the-scenes stills leaked online. They showed a Snow White who was visually different from the iconic cartoon. Fine, that's expected. But fans also noticed the dwarfs might be replaced or drastically changed to be more inclusive. Then came the interviews where Rachel Zegler made remarks about the prince being irrelevant and the original story feeling antiquated. That's when social media blew up, and the negativity began overshadowing any potential hype.
That despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them,
she's a good actress,
that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Wow.
Disney tried doubling down. Their marketing talked about how the Snow White would be less about romance and more about female empowerment. Many fans, though, saw it as dismissive of the original's charm. They asked, why adapt a classic if you're just going to dismantle it soon enough? It wasn't just random Twitter accounts complaining, major entertainment outlets and critics started pointing out how big a risk it was to radically rewrite a story beloved for nearly a century.
After one hell of a PR tour, Disney's live-action Snow White is finally, I know, you were wondering.
Now, let's get to Rachel Zegler's comments themselves. A significant portion of the backlash wasn't about her as an actress. Most people agree she's talented. Instead, it was the tone and wording she used when talking about the original 1937 film. She called the prince character irrelevant, joked about him being a stalker, and even described the romance as antiquated. For many lifelong Disney fans, that felt like an insult to the very DNA of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the movie that launched Disney's feature animation empire. Daughter statements went viral, spawning memes and hashtags. People questioned if she truly understood or appreciated the legacy she was stepping into. Some argued that she was simply advocating for a more modern perspective, but the overall vibe online was that she'd gone far in dismissing what made the 1937 film a classic in the first place. The negative buzz grew, and it seemed like every new appearance Zegler made only fueled the fire.
And you have parents looking at Disney being like, what are you doing, guys? Like, this is supposed to be a place where magic happens, and all you're doing is indoctrinating kids, and you're having this person be the poster child of the Democratic Party.
It also didn't help that footage of her repeating similar sentiments surfaced, with her describing the original Snow White as lacking real depth or growth. Fans felt these critiques ignored the historical context of the movie. Remember, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was produced in the 1930s. Sure, it might look simplistic next to modern-day storytelling, but it was groundbreaking back then. As the controversy heated up, Disney found itself in an awkward spot. Either they had to back the lead actress, or reassure their classic-loving audience that they still cared about the original's legacy. One of the biggest revelations came when industry insiders leaked that Disney's marketing, creative, and PR teams were all on different pages. The plan to highlight the film's woke reinterpretation was overshadowed by Rachel Zegler's unscripted and sometimes flippant remarks. Disney tried to backtrack, but the damage was done.
Look no further than what Disney is doing with their woke, DEI, feminist agenda.
Tell me if this is attractive to you. Like, does this, imagine you invested into her being the face of the movie.
Early test screenings reportedly had lukewarm reactions, with audiences unsure about the heavy-handed messaging. Merchandise tied to the film did poorly in test markets, leading retailers to worry they'd be stuck with leftover Snow White dolls. And apparel, the usual synergy between Disney Parks' consumer products and film promotion, just wasn't clicking down. In short, it became a fiasco. Hardcore Disney fans and general audiences alike weren't excited, but confused or even annoyed. The controversy overshadowed any potential charm the new Snow White adaptation might have delivered. Critics, some who usually favor Disney, began saying the studio had lost its way. They said that the entire approach, from concept to marketing, felt misguided. From a corporate standpoint, Disney's top brass, including Bob Iger, reportedly watched with growing alarm. If this adaptation bombed spectacularly, it could tarnish Snow White, one of the company's most treasured pieces of intellectual property. And if there's one thing Disney cannot afford, it's losing audience trust in a brand that started their entire feature-length animation legacy. So, behind the scenes, executives scrambled for a solution.
She destroyed hundreds of millions of dollars worth of IP for Disney, but she also has destroyed her career and the careers of anybody who worked on the movie.
We'll still offend the dwarves, but we'll CGI dwarves. So we'll guarantee no employment for little people while getting rid of this other component that warranted CGI. It was the worst decision they could possibly make.
In a move that surprised basically everyone, Disney announced they'd be hitting the reset button. Yes, before the already filmed Snow White with Rachel Zegler even had a chance to fully release. Word came out that Disney would be starting over, with a new adaptation slated for production in 2025 and a tentative release date around 2027. This second reboot is being framed as a return to classic fairy tale storytelling. Gone are the drastically reimagined plot points, the minimal romance arcs, and any sense that the prince is irrelevant. Disney's new official line is that they want to remain faithful to the 1937 film's emotional heartbeat and visual language. Although many details remain under wraps, we do know beloved characters will return. The dwarfs aren't going to be replaced by magical creatures. Instead, we'll likely see them portrayed in a way that respects their original charm and comedic relief. Classic musical numbers, iconic songs like Someday My Prince Will Come and Hi-Ho will feature prominently, though there may be a few fresh compositions, legacy creatives. Disney is reportedly bringing back animators and consultants who worked on previous princess films to ensure the new project captures the essence of classic Disney magic. Fresh casting, it sounds like Disney wants an actress who not only has the vocal chops, but also understands the legacy she's inheriting. They're looking for someone who won't spark controversy with off-the-cuff remarks.
The producers, far left-wing activists in Hollywood, are turning on her, and Disney has canceled all of Rachel Zegler's appearances on their media platforms. Kind of tough.
You could look at the fact that she has been sabotaging this film for years at this point, all in this sort of pursuit of entitlement.
Insiders say Disney views this new project as a critical course correction, a chance to reintroduce Snow White to a modern audience, without alienating those who grew up adoring the original. Given that the previous adaptation's promotional cycle was basically a PR nightmare, the new team will apparently have strict guidelines and training to stay on message. Now, what about Rachel Zegler herself? Initially, she seemed unbothered by the criticism, doubling down on her statements about the prince and the original film's storyline. But as weeks turned into months and the public backlash refused to die down, something shifted. Disney allegedly pulled her from multiple appearances that had been lined up to promote the film. Conventions, talk shows, you name it, insiders say. Disney executives wanted to protect the brand from further negative press, essentially telling Zegler's team, "We're good, no more interviews." Whether it's a complete blacklisting or just a strategic pause remains to be confirmed. But it's clear that the studio is distancing itself from her. Zegler has mostly stayed quiet since the big reboot announcement, which is telling. She hasn't been on social media defending her previous comments or expressing disappointment. She's gone almost silent. Some fans feel sympathy for her pointing out she's still a relatively new face in Hollywood, and perhaps she just got caught in a PR storm she wasn't prepared for. Others say this is the natural consequence of mocking a beloved Disney classic and alienating the very fan base who would buy tickets. One thing's for sure, if Rachel Zegler hopes Snow White would skyrocket her to superstardom, this saga's proven to be more of a setback than a victory lap. Let's talk about fan response in more detail. Even though the Rachel Zegler version hasn't fully released in theaters at the time of this script, the early reviews and test reactions have been rough. Some have posted low ratings on IMDb, citing everything from the script to Zegler's portrayal. Though these can be skewed by review bombing, still, it's a telling sign that the film hasn't earned a robust defense from anyone, critics or fans.
It's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming
So she's gonna
about
die.
true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Social media is flooded with memes comparing Zegler's statements to the original Snow White, often painting her as someone who doesn't respect the classics. Hashtags condemning Disney's creative choices trended for weeks, indicating that this wasn't just a flash-in-the-pan controversy. The broader conversation questions whether Disney is losing sight of what made its animations timeless. Even mainstream entertainment news outlets that typically champion Disney's big releases began to comment on the apparent disconnect between the company's marketing and fan expectations. Some analysts suggested the film might flop financially if Disney didn't pivot soon. That, combined with unremarkable merchandise pre-sales, presumably played a huge role in the decision to start over.
Disney responded by scaling back the premiere. I don't know that anyone really showed up to the premiere. The Rotten Tomatoes reviews are looking pretty bad, and they did. It seems like they tried to tweak a few things, but this movie is bad.
Why does any of this matter so much to Disney? Well, we're talking about Snow White, the very first feature-length animated film the studio ever produced. It's the crown jewel of the Disney legacy. If you lose fans on this property, what faith will they have in your future live-action remakes? Additionally, Disney's been facing financial and reputational challenges lately. A string of their recent live-action remakes like Mulan, Pinocchio, and Dumbo received lukewarm to outright negative receptions, both critically and commercially. Investors and longtime Disney loyalists are questioning whether the company has lost its creative spark. The risk is, if Disney botches Snow White, it's not just about one movie losing money, it could erode confidence in the entire brand. Merchandising deals, theme park attractions, streaming tie-ins, everything surrounding one of Disney's most iconic properties would suffer. Bob Iger and the executive team are desperate for a win, something that can reaffirm Disney's image as the place where magic happens. A widely beloved Snow White reboot could do that. Another fiasco might cement the narrative that Disney's golden era is over, with all that at stake. Disney's playing it safe, and maybe that's exactly what fans want. According to various insider leaks and the announcement press release, the new reboot is set to stick closer to the original plot. Expect the iconic storyline, an orphan princess on the run, 7 dwarfs with distinct personalities, and a wicked queen obsessed with beauty and vanity. Include classic musical sequences in addition to hits like Hi-Ho and Someday My Prince Will Come. There might be newly written songs that blend seamlessly with the older style, not overshadow it. Maintain a fairy tale look and feel. Expect the forest animals, the cottage, and those whimsical visuals that have defined the property since 1937 refined, not replace, if there are modern updates. Insiders say they'll be subtle, like slightly more agency for Snow White, or gentle expansions of the dwarfs' personalities.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them.
So, that's the latest on the Snow White saga. Rachel Zegler's comments ignited a firestorm. Disney's current adaptation is buried under controversy, and we're now heading for a brand new reboot in a few years. The stakes are incredibly high, and people are wondering if Disney can recapture the magic that made Snow White a cultural phenomenon. Back in 1937, personally, I think Disney has a real opportunity here if they can keep the story's core intact and treat the source material with genuine respect. Sure, times change, and it's great to have strong, layered female characters, but that doesn't mean you throw away the charming romance or label the prince as irrelevant. Balance is key, and it's about weaving modern perspectives into timeless themes without alienating the original audience. What do you all think? Are you excited about this new reboot? Or are you tired of Disney retreading old ground? Do you think Rachel Zegler deserves the level of backlash she's received? Or is it an overreaction by the internet? Let me know in the comments. I love hearing your takes. It makes covering these stories all the more interesting. If you found this breakdown helpful or entertaining, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. We cover all the biggest entertainment stories here, from blockbuster reveals to behind-the-scenes drama. Until next time, keep the magic alive, and remember, not every remake has to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes the classics are classics for a reason. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay tuned for my next video. We'll be diving into the controversies around other Disney live-action reimaginings, and whether they're actually pushing audiences away rather than pulling them in. Until then, stay curious, stay kind, and I'll see you in the next one.